tonight, we hope to be able to conclude our short series on the Thessalonian letters, okay? So let's read from 2 Thessalonians chapter 3. We're going to finish, of course, up to the last verse. So let's just read that, okay? 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, starting on verse 6. Now we command you, brothers and sisters, in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, to keep away from every brother or sister who is idle. Actually, it only says brother in the text, but they added or sister, so that we will be inclusive, okay? Who is idle and does not live according to the tradition received from us. For you yourselves know how you should imitate us. We were not idle among you. We did not eat anyone's food free of charge. Instead, so bawal yung mga pastor na mahilig sa libre. You know? Instead, we labored and toiled, working night and day, so that we would not be a burden to any of you. By the way, it's not hard for Paul to be working while preaching, because it's very common among rabbis, they have secular work, because they don't have their own synagogues, most of them, so they have extra work. And you'll find here, even in the U.S., a lot of the rabbis here have their own businesses. That's normal for them, okay? It is not that we don't have the right to support, but we did it to make ourselves an example to you so that you would imitate us. In fact, when we were with you, this is not what we commanded you. If anyone is not willing to work, he should not. Okay? Let's read it. That's a beautiful passage, okay? If anyone is not willing to work, he should not eat. Okay? It's illegal to be lazy in the Bible. For we hear that there are some among you who are idle. They are not busy, but busybodies. Busybodies are what? Gossips, okay? Now we command and exhort such people by the Lord Jesus Christ to work quietly and provide for themselves. But as for you, brothers and sisters, do not grow weary in doing good. If anyone does not obey our instruction in this letter, take note of that person. Don't associate with him so that he may be ashamed. Now this is Bible. Don't associate with these idle people, lazy people, so they'll be ashamed. Yet don't consider him as an enemy, but warn him as a brother. May the Lord of peace himself give you peace, always in every way. The Lord be with all of you. I, Paul, am writing this greeting with my own hand, which is an authenticating mark in every letter. This is how I write. The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with you all. So it turned out, in 2 Thessalonians, Paul did not use a secretary. You remember the name of his secretary? Anybody? Free candy. It starts with letter T. Next is E. Huh? R. Okay, go do your homework, okay? Tertius. Okay, that's the name of his secretary, because, of course, some of his letters he wrote in jail. But here, he wrote with big letters. Why big letters? Yeah, he was old, you know, and he could not read small letters anymore. So the bulk of this conclusion is on final warnings. Remember that Thessalonian is a discipleship manual. Therefore, these are the last statements that he will make. Let's go at it, okay? In verse 16 and 13. First of all, Paul warned them against idle people. So there is idolatry, there is adultery. Now Paul is adding another one. What's that? Idolatry. whereas for idle people. Now, this is a command, and Paul says, keep away from idle people. You know, there are certain people that we should be avoiding. Some people say avoid smelly people. That's understandable. Avoid criminals. You don't want to be friends with criminals. Avoid the following things. Well, Paul said, avoid idle people. Say, avoid idle people. Now, these are not just lazy people. We'll learn it later. And this is a command, not a simple announcement. And it even sounds like an official edict from Paul. Now, this word of command saying, have nothing to do with idle people. It seems like an official pronouncement. Now, idle is an interesting word because it has double meaning. Other translation use the word lazy. Say lazy. And this is our common understanding of idle people. And truly, you cannot be having companionship with people who are lazy. Why? Because they will pull you down into laziness. Bawal, in the Philippines, there is a province called Bataan. That is where MacArthur held his people before he left for Australia. But in Balanga, Bataan, when I used to do ministry there is an official slogan in the town, bawal ang tamad sa Bataan, sa Balanga. Bawal ang tamad. It's all over the place. You will find it. Bawal ang tamad sa Balanga, Bataan. Okay? They don't like lazy people. They don't like idle people. Now, because idleness is very common, and you will say, well, there's no job. Yeah, but you don't have to be idle. Being idle doesn't mean that, not being idle doesn't mean you have a job. Well, we define job as something that you are being paid to do something. Well, being idle is not necessarily that. For example, in the house, America is growing children who are idle. Are you listening? You know, so a lot of parents are complaining. Even my wife a lot of times complain because you don't like idle people in your house. You like people who are contributing to the work of the house. But some people, a lot of children are being raised to be idle. They wake up very late. They sleep very late also. You know, they have no time for homework, but they have time for video games. They don't do their assignments and chores, but they have time for a lot of Facebook time and texting. These are idle people. And here there's a prohibition, avoid those. If you listen to the scriptures, it actually tells you to keep good company. If your friends are hardworking, you will be embarrassed if you are lazy, because everybody else is working. Can you imagine you're a bunch of young friends, and some of you are lazy, and so you go to a restaurant, hey, let's eat, okay. The lazy ones are normally the ones who could not pay. Why? Because they are lazy. You know, in the Philippines, it's common among friends like that when they eat out. When the time for the bill to come, what happens? They disappear. They go to the bathroom. Oh, I just need to use the washroom. And the one who is left on the table is normally the one who ends up paying for everything. Well, because of idleness sometimes. But there is another translation for the word idle here. And this is where I would like to concentrate a little bit. An idle person is someone who defies good order, meaning a disorderly person. That's an idle person, a disorderly person. This is an irresponsible behavior. What is an irresponsible behavior? Somebody who defies tradition. Now, what is tradition? Tradition here is not just customs and tradition, but it's the tradition he passed on, which we learned last week. It is the Word of God, the Scriptures. And this is what we may call as a lawless person. That's an idle person. Our translation reads, who is idle and does not live according to the tradition received from us. So what's an idle person? You receive an instruction from the Word of the Lord, from the Gospels, from the Torah, and you say, I will not do it, you are out of order, a disorderly person. Now, a disorderly person is also somebody who is seen just walking around. Have you seen a person who is very busy doing nothing? Anybody have seen that? Say, for example, we have a volunteer work here. You'll find that some people are very busy, but they're not doing anything. How is it possible? Have you noticed, for example, during when we used to do car wash, we have a lot of volunteers here, but some of the volunteers are busy doing nothing. They're just walking around. You know, hey, what are you doing here? Do you want to help? I'm busy here. What are you doing here? They are busy going around, but doing nothing. And there are people like that. And they look busy, but accomplishing nothing. You know what is the worst exercise that I do it because that's all I can do before, you know. Treadmill. Any of you used treadmill before? It's one of the lousiest equipment that you can use. You are sweating, you are walking, you are going nowhere. And then you'll even run. You know, you'll even run. You're still there. You're going nowhere. That is a good, now of course that's exercise, it's not being idle like I'm telling you, but that is an example of being idle. Some people, they are very busy, they look like they're doing something, they are not going anywhere. You know, one of the things that the Bible actually tells us to avoid is to staying the same. You don't move anywhere. You stay the same. There is a student in Ohio that I watched a documentary on before. He was over 30 years old. He's a professional student, over 30 years old, no college degree. And the school is already telling him, hey, listen, you've got to graduate, over 30 years old. Good grades, but going nowhere. So finally, the school awarded him a bachelor's degree in general studies. Why? Because they want him out. I mean, if the bachelor's degree only requires, I don't know here, 134, 137 credits, he's got over 200. I mean, he should have a master's already. But he likes being a professional student. So he was one of the oldest students in the campus. He's always there, going nowhere. Okay? That's an idle person. And of course, the rule is if you go to school, you've got to finish. That's the rule. That's the tradition. You go there to matriculate a degree, but if you have been there for 10 years and you are not matriculating any degree, what's happening? You are defying order. The order of things is you go to school while you are young, and after some time, you go find yourself some work. That's why if you've been to school for so long and then you don't have work, people wonder, why in the world did you go to school? What for? Because you are idle. That is just a stepping stone, okay? So you are a disorderly person. And the command is, keep away from these brothers and sisters. Why? They are not going to progress. You've got to be watchful for the company that you keep and the friends that you keep. You want to be friends with people who are going from point A to point B. Not stationary. You remember my illustration with Adrian, Anne's nephew? Anne's nephew, maybe Anne's. Anne, is he your nephew or cousin? Oh, I don't even know the difference, you know. But it's her cousin. He went to University of Virginia and matriculated chemical engineering. He's a chemical engineer for a big oil company. He's traveling the world now, making good money. And so he's got friends in high school, you know, kids. They look like they're talking about something when they're actually talking about nothing. So, because some of his friends have no guidance from the parents, he's got a mother that is very disciplined, you know, Tita Fe, and would require that this young man finish his homework. He will not be allowed to play unless he finishes his homework. So sometimes when I and I are picking him up in Virginia Beach, he will be busy in the car. I said, why are you reading in the car and doing homework? He said, because I could not play. I said, what do you mean you could not play? My mom doesn't allow me to play unless my homework is finished. That's the kind of discipline he has. So he was accepted at the University of Virginia, and so he's got friends. They bike, they wrestle, they play. These are friends of his. But friends with no ambition. So you know, when you have no ambition, what do? It's just like some of the interns that I have in the ministry, pastors. It seems like their goal is after they pass internship, they want to get married. There's nothing else to do. Just they get married. Even if their money is not good, they just want to get married. So he's got friends like that. And so he went to Colombia. He became the head of their business there and did all kinds of things. And then one day, he's having a vacation. He told his high school friends in Virginia Beach, hey, let's meet up. And the friend says, let's meet up at the parking lot of the Food Lion. It's just like Giolosco here. And so they meet up, and they said they're late. And he said it was a shock of his life. Because, you know, Adrian is a wrestler, so he's very fit. And he said, I saw my friends in the parking lot, and he said, man, they got fat. Same age, they got fat. Not only they get fat, they got married, and there's nothing wrong with that. They have kids. And he said, there is just nothing there. When they were in high school, hey, what are you going to do after high school? We're going to go to college. We're going to have a business. But now there's nothing. They're just empty shells. They have big tummy, and they have a child or two, and they're driving this old car. Nothing wrong with the old car, but they're driving this old car. And he said, I'm talking to them. It's just like I have never known these people. He said, there's nothing there. There's just nothing there. It's empty shell. No more ambition. It's just there. You know, difficult when you become friends with people who are going nowhere. And these are people who are idle. You need to be very selective with your friends. Have friends with ambition. Have friends with a good outlook at the future, who are looking forward to doing this, going there, doing something. If your friends are idle, Paul said, avoid them. Now that is true even in the Christian faith. You need to have friends who have ambition in life. You know, one of my best friends that is not here, maybe next year he will come, he said after the presidential election, is Brother Willie. If Biden gets reelected, he said, I'm not coming, you know. I said, what's the relation of that, you know? So the reason why I like talking to him is because we always talk about what we're going to do next. What we're going to do next. Where we're going to do next. Because we have invitations in other countries for missions. What are we going to attack first? You know, some people, you talk to them, there's just nothing there. In fact, they're just waiting, what's for lunch? After what's for lunch, they're preparing, what are we going to eat for dinner? And you're still eating lunch. And they're talking about dinner already. There's just nothing there. It's an empty shell. And Paul said, avoid those who are idle. Now, can you imagine in the Christian church if everybody is idle also? No dream of discipleship, no dream of maturity, no dream of progress, no dream of doing something for God. That's an idle person. And so, if you are an idle person, you are not living up to tradition. For example, in the Philippines, even if our parents are poor, they'll say, go to college. Do everything. Some of the parents that we have, they will sell their carabaos, their farms, just for the children to be able to go to college. Now can you imagine if your parents send you to college, and then you say, after going to college, I'm just going to be lazy, hang around and do nothing. That's against tradition. Because the tradition is you go to school, you get your work, you get yourself work and help in the family. That's the tradition. And some people just violate those things. Another thing that is associated with being an idle person, because one of the definitions is those who just walk around, busybodies. Busybodies doesn't mean your body is busy. It just means you gossip, okay? Meaning, a gossip is somebody who is seeking those whom they can persuade to violate tradition. Hey, why do you do that? Why are you working so hard? Come on, take it easy. Well, because tradition follows while you are young. While you are young, that's the time to be super hardworking. Because one day you're going to get old and your body will not be able to do the things that a young person can do. I mean, I go to the gym to swim, and the only reason why it's swimming is because it's low impact. I could not do high impact exercise anymore. Now, listen, some of those people, I know what exercise is that. They have a box and they jump. How do you call that? Box jump. Wow. That's deep, you know. So they have this low box, and then they have boxes that are. Have you seen the video that Joseph sent? He's motivating somebody to jump, and then when he jumped, he blew it, you know. But they go. I watched that thing. It's painful for me to watch it. You know, it's painful. I used to do that when I was young. Yeah, but I don't jump like that. I jump with a barbell on my back. You know, alternate. That's what I used to do. It broke my lower back. Yeah, but some people, what they do is they encourage others to violate tradition. Again, when I'm saying tradition, the Word of God, why do you have to keep doing that? Why do you have to do the following things? These are gossip. Have you noticed gossip will enjoin others to do the lazy things they're doing? I mean, they will enjoin others to be like them. That's a gossip. It's enjoining others to participate in being disorderly. And the command of Paul is, keep away from these people, these brothers and sisters. And the emphasis, brothers and sisters, part of the family of God. And I think the application becomes obvious, even if it's your immediate family. If your immediate family is telling you to be idle, to be like them, not to do what is proper, have nothing to do with them. And these are people, believers, who does not live according to the tradition they receive from Paul. Instead, Paul says, imitate us. Who are the us? Those who are not idle or disorderly. The first area of imitation that Paul mentioned is, Paul said this, I did not eat anyone's food free of charge. You know, when I was a staff in the Philippines, we were hosting. One of the most embarrassing things I've seen. Say we will host international leaders, and so I was the one in charge of inviting people to join us on the table. Now, this is one of the most embarrassing things that I've seen repeatedly. And we will bring them to a nice restaurant, and we have Filipino guests and international guests. We normally pay, you know, because we're hosting. Some Filipinos ordering what they cannot eat, and they'll just order. And my pastor, an American, used to say, are they really going to eat that? Because they will order a lot and never eat, you know. They are hoping that they can put it in what we call, do you use it here in the US, right? They call it doggy bag. But actually, it's not the dog who eats that. They eat that when they go home, but they call it doggy bag. And the Filipinos will just order a lot. It's embarrassing, you know. That's why what I did, and Filipinos are known for that in the Philippines. When there are foreign guests, they will order because they have no intention of paying. Because you have a guest from the US, and so they will pay. So they will, it irks me a lot. Well, when I take people out and say, why are they ordering so much? Are they going to eat this? At one time, I actually get angry because somebody ordered a lot, and I says, who's going to finish this? Because it's a waste of money, you know. But that is an embarrassment. And some of my American guests, when I have a meeting like that, they will be laughing. They'll be making jokes. Where in the world are you going to put that? And the Filipinos think it's a joke. It's not a joke. But we become a laughing stock. That's why I made a point, when I go out, I pay. It doesn't matter who. I make it a point, I pay. Because I'm breaking tradition. What tradition? That Filipinos don't pay. You see? And part of the reason is because of the bad reputation that Filipinos have developed. And I encourage you, you be observant to some of these traditions, because some are embarrassing and they're not good for us. And Paul says, I was not a burden to them. Now, that's a very important statement. Paul says, I am not a burden to you. Listen, the more we grow up, one of the things that we should actually look forward to is we are not a burden to anybody. Are you listening? I don't care if you are children of your parents. You cannot be a burden, especially when you're already grown up. Can you imagine I'm 62 years old? What if I'm 62 years old, I call my mother and I said, Nanay, she's super old. I mean, how old is she? My mother is 88 years old. I don't even know how old she is. My daughter has to tell me how old she is. She's 88 years old. Have difficulty with hearing. Have difficulty with eating. You know? Why does she have difficulty with eating? Because I found out when you're wearing dentures and you're old, the gum, the gum keeps receding. And so there's nothing, the dentures will not, you have to tape it, you know, put some magic glue, right? Crazy glue. Put it in there so it will stick. And so, can you imagine if I will call her and say, Nanay, can you send me some money? I'm 62 years old. That's totally irresponsible. Look, it's common, it's orderly. You get old, you carry your own weight. Are you listening? You're not listening. Are you listening? You get old, you carry your own weight. Because our parents are getting older. They're not getting any younger. By the way, you get older, you get weaker, you do less. And so it becomes responsible for the kids. You grow old, you carry your own weight. My father used to say, Jose, I will not leave anything to you. And he did not. He said, the only thing I can leave to you is your education. Make sure you study hard, and then you work and do whatever you want. That's what he used to tell me. And certainly that happened. You know, some of my siblings were not as blessed as I am, and so they have to rely on certain things. But listen, you've got to carry your own weight. You cannot be. You have to avoid people who will make you lazy. And even in the gospel, you have to avoid people who will enjoin you to be like them, not obeying the Lord. Some people has to be avoided. I was not a burden to them. We have a friend, they're both musicians. And I was just asking Brother Willie, so what happened to these people? Oh, he said, oh, Pare, that's very, very sad. Because they got married eventually. They were dating for something like 12 years or 9 years. So eventually they get married. And this guy, by the time it's 3 p.m., his work is finished. But the wife is a very competitive person. And she is always being asked to do overtime. And sometimes she'll finish work at around 5, 6, 7 p.m. And you know, the traffic in the Philippines is not like here. Hey, we are 5 miles away. In 5 minutes, I'm there. In the Philippines, hey, we are 5 miles away. In 5 days, we're there, you know. So she will come home very late. She will come home at around 8. And she will always find her husband sitting at the couch watching television. Only ate some chichirya, you know, some snack, but would not eat dinner. Because he expects, now the wife makes a lot of money. So she carried the burden of financing the house, the household expenses, because she makes good money. But she will come home super tired. And then the husband is sitting on the couch watching television. And the moment she comes home, instead of saying, hey, honey, dinner is ready, he will look at her and say, hey, listen, you're late tonight. We need to eat dinner. And so this lady is very busy. And providing for the bulk of the expenses in the house. And when she gets home, she has to cook. The husband has been there since 3 p.m., 4 p.m. But she has to cook. After she cooks, she do the dishes. The husband goes back to watching television. That's irresponsible. That's why I think in a Christian home, it's very important, especially you kids. Your parents are working hard. I mean, can you imagine if your parents go home and then your parents, after working hard, has to do the dishes, has to do the cooking? There comes a point you need to do the cooking. Did you hear what I said? There comes a point you do the cooking. And the parents has to come home because they're working hard, providing for the family. They need to be able to relax. But that's part of idleness. And that is a culture that we need to break. And here, we should not be a burden to anybody. One of our goals in life, one of your goals, do not be a burden. Did you hear me? You cannot be a burden to anybody. And so, Paul therefore put forward some of the things that the Thessalonians already know or were taught, and he was just reminding them, this is how you live as a responsible part of the community. Now, Paul talked about support, because as a minister, he founded these churches, he has the right to support, but he said, I am not even taking advantage of that. Instead, I'm working hard more than any of you. He did extra business, he made tents. And so this is an area of life that Paul wants them to imitate, meaning imitate people who are not burdened to the family, who are not burdened to society. Okay? Imitate those kind of people. Then Paul went back to them and told them that, he said, I hear that some of you are idle. This was a report. These are people who are just walking around from house to house, gossiping. No, it's still true today in Israel. Say, it doesn't matter if it's Jewish or Muslim. If you're walking, especially in the villages, and you're thirsty, you can knock on the door, even if it's a Muslim house. Knock and say, hey, listen, can I have some water, please? If it's lunchtime, even if it's a Muslim house in Israel today, if it's lunchtime, you knock, can I have some water, please? The host will say, sure, I'll give you some water. By the way, it's lunchtime. Would you care to join us for lunch? They still do that today. They're very hospitable people. But then it becomes a habit for some. Lunchtime, they go around from house to house looking for free meal. Okay? And Paul says, avoid this kind of people. Now, Paul gave his next command and exhortation. This time it's pointed to idle people. What is the solution if a person is idle? Because sometimes you say, well, we are Christians, we love one another, we tolerate these things. No, we don't tolerate these things. Especially if you are a person of faith. If you are a person of faith, you don't tolerate these things. This is what Paul said to the idle people, and they claim to be believers. He said, work quietly and provide for yourselves. Literally, don't be a disturbance to anybody. I remember Oprah. She was being interviewed. And I watched the interview partially, because she's a billionaire, but she was already filthy rich. And she said, can you imagine my family? And she said, these are my family. And I'm in the middle of the show, and suddenly my phone will ring, and my secretary will tell me, Miss Oprah, you've got to take this call. And this is what she said. I pick up the call, and she said, hey, Oprah, I got stranded. My car broke down. And she said, what do you mean car broke down? Call AAA. And she said, their car broke down. It's a Mercedes which I bought. It broke down, and they are calling me for help. And she said this, if they are not family, I should have thrown them out. It's a disturbance. They are a burden. And so Paul said this, for idle people, work quietly and provide for yourselves. Literally, don't be a disturbance to anybody. One of the things that we are told now this is faith life. I like the Tagalog version. Huwag kang istorbo sa ibang tao. Don't be a disturbance to anybody. You know, sometimes people disturb you for every little thing. And Paul said this, hey, listen, don't be idle. Don't be a disturbance from anybody. There are certain things that we need help from each other. For example, when we installed a new lock in our house. I have an old lock. It's a very good lock. But you've got to put a little bit of pressure to open it. It's a very good lock. And so I told a duplicate copy for everybody. I said, this is how you unlock the door. You push the key, and then you apply a little bit of force all the way to the right, and it will open. And so my wife, of course, is getting old. And she called me. I was somewhere. I don't know if I was out of state or something, but I was somewhere. And she said, sweetheart, there's nobody here. I said, well, what happened? I could not open the door. I said, Ann, I'm not in Chicago right now. I said, put the key inside. And I said, twist it to the right. And she's twisting, but only first level. I said, put a little bit more force. And I said, I could not do it. I said, well, I cannot do anything. I'm not in Chicago right now. Find somebody who will help it. Finally, I think James came in, or somebody, or Joel, and put the key and just open it. Just open it. Because my wife cannot apply the pressure. I know maybe her hand is a little bit weak, but just open it. I said, then no problem. But I'm out of Chicago. And she called me. You see? Now this is what that may be a bad illustration, but Paul is saying, hey, don't be a disturber. Don't call anybody for every little thing. Be responsible for yourself. You know, one of the things that we should learn is how to be responsible for ourselves. Can you imagine if you're going to wake up in the middle of the night, I need some ramen. Boil some water. Boil some water and put it in that dehydrated ramen and you will see it will work. You think you cook already, but actually you did not. Literally provide for yourself. Literally eat quietly by yourself. Okay? Do not also be weary in doing good. This is doing something that is good. Do not get tired of that. Do not get tired of doing good. Do not be weary means do not lose heart. Now here are the final instructions. Those who do not obey these instructions against being idle, take note of that person. Know these people. You know, one of the responsibilities we have is to know idle people around us. Not everybody likes to be responsible. If a person is idle, especially if they're getting old, and they refuse to carry their own weight, Paul said, take note of that person. Now, you take mental note. You don't take a notebook and say, oh, this brother so-and-so, sister so-and-so. Take mental note. What do you do after you take certain note of these idle people? Paul says, do not associate with him. Now, these are believers. Do not associate with him. Do not associate with idle people. Why? Is there a special revelation? So they will be ashamed. You know, for example, somebody always borrow money from you, but they won't pay. Because they are lazy. Have nothing to do with them. What? To embarrass them. Now, can you imagine this is how practical the Bible is? It can be to embarrass them. In Tagalog, mahiya ka naman. You know, just to embarrass them. So they will be ashamed. Why? Because these people become shameless. Some people are just shameless. They are idle. They are not doing anything. They want give me attitude, you know. Paul said this though, don't consider him as an enemy, but warn him as a brother. Why? Because if you keep bailing out somebody who is idle, you are not actually helping them. You are not helping them. You know, for example, with homework, I told you about my childhood, if you can call it, friend in the squatters in the Philippines. He's hardworking. As a young man, he's already fishing. Well, it's not fishing actually, but it's in the fishing industry. But he's lazy with education. Now, I work hard. I like studying, so I work hard. Well, one day we became classmates, and he came to me. The name is Leo, and he said, "Hey, Jose, can I copy your homework?" Did you guys ever copy from each other's homework? Oh, don't answer that if you don't want to. I don't like sharing my homework. I just don't like it because you work hard for it. Since I was a kid, I just don't like sharing my homework because I work hard and then you're just gonna copy. It doesn't sound fair to me. That's just me, you know. So we were going to school. It's around a kilometer away from us, and he said, "Jose, I don't have homework. Can I copy?" I got upset with him. You know, I said, "You're gonna copy from my homework?" He said, "Yeah, because I did not do my homework. Mom will be upset." In the Philippines, if your teacher gets upset, they will pinch your singit, you know, and they will no child abuse in the Philippines. They will ping out your ears. Oh, the worst is if you are a guy, the teacher will handle your sideburn, you know, and lift you up with that. And so no. So Leo told me, "Hey, Jose, you've gotta come on, share to me your homework." I got upset with him. I said, "How dare you want to copy my homework? I work hard for this." I said, "I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll teach you how to do your homework." And he got embarrassed. I said, "But I'll teach you how to do your homework." And so I began to tutor him. By the way, when you tutor your classmate like that, you don't get paid. We just tutor each other, you know. So, but he got so ashamed, he will treat me with free snacks. Oh, I love coaching him now, you know, because now I don't have the money to buy snacks. But you know, that changed this guy. First, I embarrassed him. Second, I coached him. Now he became a good student. So when we were going in high school, his mom asked me, "Jose, where are you going to high school?" So I said, "I'm going to this school, the cheapest tuition." He said, "Why don't you enroll to this school, a better school, because higher tuition pay?" I said, "I can't afford it. My parents can't afford it." He said, "Because my son only became interested in education after he became friends with you. Because I will not share to him my homework. I will embarrass him." I said, and you know, the way we embarrass people in the Philippines is really embarrassment. "You lazy you. Why will you copy from me?" I'll tell him that. But I'll teach him how to do homework. And I begin to tutor him. And he became a better student. He finished marine engineering in the process. I finished electrical. He finished marine engineering. But sometimes you need to give a good dose of their own medicine. Some people are just shameless in being idle. Let's not tolerate that. But don't consider him as an enemy, but as a brother, so that he can reform himself, or this will be a warning for him. And then he said, "May the God of peace himself give you peace always in every way." So even in rebuking an idle person like this, he said, "May God give you peace." And to show sincerity about what he said, "Look, I am writing big letters with my own hand." Now this is the last instruction that he gave concerning discipleship. You know, when we train, when you disciple others, you've got to make sure they don't grow idle. No idle hands, no lazy individuals, no irresponsible people among us. Look, our community, we have to be hardworking, especially us immigrants here in the U.S. It's embarrassing if we are identified with people who are lazy, with people who are not carrying their own weight. And that is beginning to be a reputation that some Filipinos are developing, especially in California. You know, the best reputation of Filipinos, I think to this day, the immigrants, are immigrants in Chicago. We have a lot. Immigrants in New York, they have good reputation also, but the best reputation is in Chicago. The reputation of Filipino immigrants in Chicago is we are educated, we're hardworking. Well, we are associated also, oh, these are medical medical profession people. I don't know how many friends I have. Oh, you're in Chicago. My nurses in my clinic are Filipinos. You know, from time to time, my helps are Filipinos. But we have a very good reputation of being hard workers. However, that's being tainted now. Being tainted. There are some idle people who are beginning to come our way here. We've got to change that. We can't allow that reputation to thrive. We should have a good reputation as a community, that all of us here work hard, no idle hands, and you don't keep company with people who doesn't have any ambition in life. Those who are idle, who's just one of the curses in the scriptures actually is if you stay the same. Deuteronomy 28. You're going nowhere. You will plant and harvest very little. Why do farmers plant? So they harvest a lot, they can buy more land. They can have more capital. But when you plant and you harvest little, you know what that means? You're barely making ends meet. You're going nowhere. One of the curses in the scriptures is you don't go anywhere. You stay the same. You cannot stay the same. You know, sometimes you talk about a certain problem, and that's the same problem that you have for 100 years. Hey, brother, hey, sister, when are you going to get off that problem? This is the same problem that you have. That's a curse, because you cannot progress. Yeah, right now I'm a fifth grader, is struggling in my grades, but watch me. Next year I'm a sixth grader. Progress. Now you see me having difficulty with being a sixth grader, but watch me next year. And then watch me. Until you keep watching me, I'm inching along. Now I'm done with college. Now I'm part of the workforce. Now I'm getting married. You're progressing. Again, one of the curses that you must not have, one of the curses of the law, is you stay the same. Because when you stay the same, you don't actually stay the same. You go down. That's when you start dying. So one of the blessings that we have is progress. You keep progressing. Yeah, we are like this right now, but you keep progressing. You cannot be idle. Are you listening? Okay, we just finished 2 Thessalonians. We'll deal with the new series next week. Let's all stand. Praise God.